Today we're going to have some fun with floating and sinking. We're going to predict which items will float and which items will sink. We are going to use items that you can find right in your classroom, your home, such as a block, a rock, scissors, a counting bear, a Lego, a paper clip, a key, and a chestnut. So for this activity, these are the items that we're going to be using. Today, we are going to get a chance to predict what items will float and what items will sink. We're pretty much going to guess. Let's see how many you can get. Our first item is a block. Is the wooden block going to float or sink? Let's test it. If you predicted float, you were correct. Give yourself a point. Our next item is a rock. A hard and heavy rock. Do you think this rock is going to sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted sink, you were correct. Give yourself another point. Our next item is a Lego, a plastic Lego. Do you think this Lego is going to sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted float, you were correct. The next item we have is a counting bear. Do you think this counting bear is going to sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted float, you were correct. Next we have a paper clip. Will this paper clip sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted sink, you were correct. Give your brain a kiss. Now we have a pair of scissors. Will the scissors sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted sink, you were correct. Give yourself another point. Now we have a key. Will this key sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted sink, you were correct. Another point for you. Now we have a chestnut. Will this chestnut sink or float? Let's test it. If you predicted float, you were correct. Give yourself another point and a high five. This concludes our floating and sinking activity. Thank you for participating. Bye-bye.